चतुर्विधा श्री भगवत प्रसादा स्वाद्वन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्त संगान् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दम्. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 types of delicious food, that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, Param Pujya Guruji. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Vyasam Vasishthanaptaram Shakti पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकतातं तपोनिधिं व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः अविकाराय शुद्धाय नित्याय परमात्मने सदैकरूपरूपाय विष्णवे सर्वजिष्णवे यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण जन्मसंसारबन्धनात् विमुच्यते नमस्तस्मै विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे शान्ताकारं भुजगशयनं पद्मनाभं सुरेशं विश्वाधारं गगनसदृशं मेघवर्णं शुभाङ्गं लक्ष्मीकान्तं कमलनयनं योगिहृद्ध्यानगम्यं वन्दे विष्णुं भवभयहरं सर्वलोकैकनाथम् ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Om Shri Krishna Paramatmane Namaha. Rama Ramaya Shanta Ramaya Sadguru Ramaya Shanta Ramaya Daya Guru Ramaya Shanta Ramaya Jaya Guru Ramaya Shantaramaya Ram Ram. Bolo Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. Bolo Radharani Arunamai ki jai. Charan Sparsh to Param Pujya Guruji. Charan Sparsh to all Devis and Mahatmas. Jai Shri Krishna Guruji.
Jai Shri Krishna Guruji.
Book 3, Discourse 18. Encounter of the Divine Boar with Hiranyaksha. Maitreya continued. Hearing the foregoing words of Varuna, the Lord of Waters, the proud and vainglorious Daitya paid little heed to them. And having learned from Narada the whereabouts of Srihari, O dear Vidura, he hurriedly betook himself to the depths of the ocean. Verse number 2. He saw there the all-victorious divine boar, bearing the earth upwards on the ends of his tusks, and robbing the demon of his splendor by his reddish eyes, and laughed. Oh, an amphibious beast! Turning to the Lord, he said, Come on, fool, leave the earth. The maker of the universe has entrusted her to us, the dwellers in Rasatala. You cannot escape unscathed with her before my very eyes, O vile God disguised as a boar. Verse number 4. Have you been reared by our enemies, the gods, for our extermination? As you kill the asuras by deceptive methods and conquer them while remaining invisible yourself? You possess little prowess, yoga maya or deception, being your only strength. Therefore, by killing you, O fool, I shall wipe the tears of my kith and kin. Verse 5. When you fall dead with your skull smashed by the mace hurled by our arms, the gods and sages who bear offerings to you will cease to be like trees without roots. Verse 6. Though being pierced by the shaft like abusive words of the enemy, the Lord bore the pain, perceiving the earth on the ends of his tusks affrighted, and emerged out of the water like an elephant with his female companion, assailed by an alligator. Verse 7. The Daitya, who had golden hair on his head and fearful tusks, gave a chase to the Lord while he was rising out of the water, even as an alligator would chase an elephant, and roaring like thunder said, Are you not ashamed of running away before a challenging adversary? Or there is nothing reproachful for shameless wretches.
That's it, So Lord has shown us. Run away. Yeah, good.
Verse 8. The Lord placed the earth on the surface of the water within his sight and transferred to her his own energy in the form of capacity to support herself on the water. While the enemy stood looking on, and while Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled him, and the other gods rained flowers on him, the Lord now displayed a terrible rage and spoke, laughing to the demon who was now close upon him, armed with a mighty mace, nay, who was adorned with gold ornaments and protected by a queer armor of gold, and had all along been cutting him to the quick by his abusive words. Verse 10. The Lord said, Indeed, we are wild brutes, O wretch, looking about for dogs like you. Heroes take no notice of your braggadocio, bound as you are with the cords of death. Scared away by your mace, we who have stolen the charge of dwellers in Rasatala stand here, casting all shame to the winds. Yet, willy-nilly, we must take our stand on the battlefield, for having brought about enmity with a powerful adversary, where can we go? A leader of leaders of foot soldiers as you are, take prompt steps to overthrow us, giving up all hitch, and wipe the tears of your kith and kin by slaying us. For he does not deserve a seat in an assembly of good people who fails to redeem his plighted word. Maitreya continued verse 13. Severely taunted and ridiculed by the Lord in an angry mood, he, the demon, waxed violently angry like a serpent which is being played with. Verse 14. Hissing indignantly, with all his senses shaken by wrath, the Daitya quickly sprang upon Srihari and dealt him a blow with his mace. Verse 15. The Lord, however, dodged the violent blow of the mace aimed at his breast by the enemy by moving aside a little, just as an accomplished yogi would elude death. Srihari now waxed angry and rushed to meet the demon who, taking up his mace again, began repeatedly to brandish it, biting his lips in rage. Verse 17. And then with his mace, the Lord struck the enemy on his right eyebrow. But skilled as he was in a fight with maces, O gentle Vidura, he intercepted it with his own mace. Verse 18. In this way, Hiranyaksha, Haryaksha, synonym of Hiranyaksha, and Srihari struck each other with their huge maces in great rage, each seeking his own victory. There was a keen rivalry between the two combatants, both of whom had sustained injuries on their body from the blows of each other's pointed mace, and grew more and more enraged at the smell of blood on their person. In their eagerness to win, they were performing maneuvers of various kinds, and their contest presented the sight of an encounter between a pair of bulls for the sake of a cow. Verse 20. Brahma, surrounded by his sages, Marichi and others, came there to witness the combat, O Vidura, the descendant of Kuru, of Hiranyaksha, son of Diti, and the supreme spirit, who had assumed the semblance of a boar by dint of his Maya deluding potency, and who represents the various yajnas or sacrifices on his person, both of whom bore enmity to each other for earth's sake. When the worshipful Brahma, who was followed by thousands of sages and seers, saw that Hiranyaksha, son of Diti, was full of manliness and devoid of fear, had returned the blows of the Lord, and possessed irresistible prowess, he spoke to Lord Narayana, the earliest born, as follows. Verse 22.
Yeah.
Brahma said, having secured a boon from me, my lord, this demon is proving a constant annoyance to the universe, and is not only trespassing against but causing fear and doing injury to the gods that have sought protection in your feet, as well as to the Brahmanas, the cows, and other innocent beings, and having no rival to contend with him, goes about the spheres in search of one. Verse 24. Play not with him, as a child may with an enraged serpent, him who is skilled in conjuring tricks, arrogant, self willed, and most wicked. 25. Presiding over your own Maya, wonderful divine energy, slay this sinful demon, O immortal Lord, before he grows formidable with the approach of an hour which is favorable to him. 26. The most dreadful hour of twilight, which is ruinous to the world, my Lord, is fast approaching, O soul of the universe. Be pleased, therefore, to bring victory to the gods by getting rid of this pestilence. Verse 27. The auspicious period known by the name of Abhijit, so opportune for victory, which commenced at midday, has now all but passed. Therefore, in the interest of us, your friends, pray, dispose of this formidable foe quickly. This fellow has luckily enough for us come of his own accord to you, his death ordained by yourself. Therefore, exhibiting your prowess, kill him in this duel and establish the worlds in peace. Thus ends the 18th discourse, forming a part of the story relating to Hiranyaksha's death in Book 3 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. Discourse 19, Death of Hiranyaksha. Maitreya continued. Hearing the words of Brahma the Creator, which were free from guile and sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayer with a glance laden with love. Verse number 2. Thereupon the divine boar who had appeared from Brahma's nose sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy in the form of that demon who was stalking fearlessly before him.
It's a good lesson for us that we need to pray to the Lord, because we got many Hiranyakshas everywhere. So pray to the Lord that we need your help. You do take action. We are innocent and we are not at all capable of doing this. This is a lesson. It comes from the Bhagavata, and the Bhagavata is talking to us. He reminds us, Bhagavata reminds us, we got one Hiranyaksha there. See, do this. Yeah. Yes, read that.
Hearing the words of Brahma the Creator, which were free from guile and sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayer with a glance laden with love. Thereupon the divine boar who had appeared from Brahma's nose sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy in the form of that demon who was stalking fearlessly before him. Verse 3. Struck by the demon with his own mace, however, it slipped from the Lord's hand and looked splendid as it fell down whirling. This was something miraculous, as it were. Even though he had an excellent opportunity to hit the Lord, the demon refused to strike his unarmed foe and respected the law of single combat, thereby kindling the fury of the universal Lord. Verse 5. As his mace fell on the ground and a cry of alarm rose from the witnessing crowd of gods and rishis, the Almighty Lord acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness or fair play and invoked his discus Sudarshana. As the discus presently began to revolve in the Lord's hand, and the Lord was contending at close quarters with the chief of his attendants, who had now been born as Hiranyaksha, a vile son of Diti. There issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing the scene from their aerial cars and had no knowledge of the Lord's real reality, saying, May victory attend you, pray, dispatch him, play no more with him. Verse 7. When he beheld the Lord, who had eyes as big and lovely as the petals of the lotus, standing in position before him, and further saw him armed with a discus, his senses were overpowered with indignation, and hissing as a serpent, he bit his lips in great resentment. Verse 8. The demon, who had fearful tusks, stared at Srihari as though he would burn him, and springing into the air, aimed his mace at him, exclaiming at the same time, You are slain. Verse 9. The Lord, who had assumed the form of a boar that represented all the sacrifices, playfully knocked it down with his left foot, O saintly Vidura, even as it came upon him with the force of a tempest, while the enemy was still looking on. Verse 10. The Lord then said, Take up your weapon and try again, eager as you are to conquer me. Challenged in these words, the demon aimed his mace at the Lord once more and loudly roared. Verse 11. When the Lord saw it flying towards him, he stood firm where he was and caught it, even as it came, with the same ease as Garuda, the king of birds, would seize a serpent. Verse 12. The great demon felt humiliated and was put out of countenance when his valor was thus frustrated, and he was reluctant to take back the mace which was being offered by Srihari. Verse 13. He now took a trident, which was rapacious as a flaming fire, for hurling it against the Lord, who was Yajna personified, even as one would use spells for a malevolent person against a holy Brahmana. Verse 14. Hurled with all his strength by the mighty Daitya, the glowing trident shone all the brighter in the sky. Sri Hari, however, tore it to pieces with his discus Sudarshana, which had a sharp-edged rim, even as Indra cut down a wing of Garuda dropped by the latter. There's a footnote. Once upon a time, Garuda snatched away nectar from the gods in heaven in order to liberate his mother Vinata from the thraldom of his stepmother Kadru, the mother of the serpent race. Thereupon, Indra, the lord of paradise, hurled the thunderbolt against Garuda. With a view to respecting the infallibility of Indra's weapon, Garuda, who was otherwise invincible, being the Lord's own mount, dropped one of his wings, which was shattered to pieces by the thunderbolt. Verse 15. The demon got enraged when his trident was cut to pieces by the discus of Srihari. He therefore advanced towards the Lord and roaring aloud, smote him with his hand with his hard fist on his broad chest, which bore the mark of Srivatsa, a curl of white hair, and then went out of sight. Verse 16. Hit in the manner by the demon, O Vidura, the Lord, who appeared as the firstborn, did not feel the least quaking in any part of his body, any more than an elephant would when struck with a wreath of flowers. Verse 17. He now employed many a conjuring trick against Srihari, the Lord of Yoga Maya, the source of all Maya, at the sight of which the people were filled with alarm and thought the dissolution of the universe was near. Verse number 18. Fierce winds began to blow, which spread darkness occasioned by dust, and stones came to volleys from every quarter, as if thrown from slings. The luminaries in the heaven disappeared due to the sky being overcast with masses of clouds, which were accompanied by lightning and thunder, and frequently rained pus, hair, blood, feces, urine, and bones. Verse 20. Mountains discharging weapons of various kinds appeared, O sinless Vidura, as also naked demonesses armed with tridents and their hair hanging loose. Most cruel and savage slogans were uttered by hosts of yakshas and rakshasas, who were all of a ruffian type and either marched on foot or rode on horses or elephants or in chariots. Verse 22. The Lord, who represented all the sacrifices in his person, now discharged his beloved Sudarshana, which was capable of dispersing the Mayas, magical forces displayed by the demon. Verse 23. That very moment, all of a sudden, a shudder ran through the heart of Diti, Hiranyaksha's mother, as she recalled the words of her lord, the sage Kashyapa, and blood flowed from her breast. When he saw his magic forces dispelled, he went into the presence of Lord Keshava once more, and full of rage, encompassed him within his arms in order to crush him. But to his great amazement and chagrin, he found the Lord standing outside the circle of his arms. Verse 25. As he now began to strike the Lord with his fists, which were harder than adamant, Lord Adhokshaja, who is beyond sense perception, slapped him in the root of his ear, even as Indra, the Lord of Maruts, or God of winds, hit the demon Vritra, son of Twashta, the architect of the gods.
Yeah.
Verse 26. Though struck indifferently by the Lord, the conqueror of all, the demon's body began to wheel. The eyeballs bulged out of their sockets and he fell down dead, like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind, his arms, legs, and hair on the head broken and scattered. Verse 27. Brahma and others who had now arrived on the spot saw the demon with fearful tusks lying on the ground, biting his lips, the glow on his face yet unfaded, and admiringly said, Oh, who could meet such a blessed death? Struck by the forefoot of the Lord, which yogis meditate upon in seclusion, through yoga in the form of abstract meditation, seeking freedom from their limitation, which is unreal, and gazing on his countenance, this crest jewel of Diti's sons has shuffled off his mortal coil. These two demons, verse 29, these two demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, are no other than the Lord's own attendants who have attained to this accursed state. They've been born as demons through a curse pronounced by sage Sanaka and his three brothers. After going through some more births, they will return to their divine abode.
Yeah.
Verse 30.
Yeah.
The gods address the Lord. Hail, hail to you, the source of all sacrifices, who have assumed a form consisting of pure sattva or goodness for the purpose of maintaining this world. Fortunately for us, this demon, who was a torment to the worlds, has been slain by you, and we too, O Lord, are at ease, now through devotion to your feet.
Yeah. This we can also say when He does for us. You know. When He does for us, in the sense, there are a lot of inner troubles in the inside is there, outside is there, and there is a mess, some sort of mess. Although with good intent, everything has gone on well. You know, poor people have been completely. Uh, Poverty has been eliminated in a large way. By our Mahatma. So all these things have taken place. Nice things, good management, everything has taken place. But yet there are difficulties, and they reoccur because somehow certain people do not seem to understand at all, and they're selfish, and that sort of. So not whatever we do, they are not satisfied. This is the thing. See, they want only our
Downfall.
downfall. Yeah, that's the thing. Even at the cost of it's still, it's sad. See, it's sad. It's a misconception of religion and everything like that. See. So anyway, we pray to God to help all of us, them also, us also. So this is the thing. Yeah. We completed this.
Verse 31. Guruji.
Yeah.
Maitreya continued, verse 31. Having thus killed Hiranyaksha of irresistible prowess, Sri Hari, who had appeared in the form of the firstborn, retired to his own divine realm, which is the abode of uninterrupted joy, while Brahma, who has his seat on a lotus, and others extolled him.
Yeah.
32. I have narrated to you, as I was told by my preceptor, O good friend, the exploits of Sri Hari, who came down to the material plane in the form of the divine boar, and how that Hiranyaksha of mighty valor was knocked down by him like a plaything in that great encounter. Verse 33, Sutta continued. Hearing the narrative of the Lord as it was told by the sage Maitreya, son of Kusharu, Vidura, who was a great devotee of the Lord, derived supreme delight, O holy sage. One rejoices to hear the life account, even of virtuous souls of sacred renown and extensive fame. There will be no limit then to one's joy on hearing the story of the Lord who bears the mark of Srivatsa. Verse 35. The Lord quickly delivered from a difficult situation the lordly elephant, who, when seized by an alligator, fixed his mind on his lotus feet in the midst of his female companions, who all shrieked in distress. Verse 36. What grateful soul is there who would not devote himself, who would not devote oneself to such a master, who can be easily pleased by guileless men, resorting exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous find it difficult to propitiate him.
Yeah.
Verse 37. He, O holy Brahmanas, is speedily and completely absolved even from the sin attaching to the murder of a Brahmana who listens to, sings, or even applauds the story of the most wonderful pastime, that is, the destruction of Hiranyaksha at the hands of the Lord, who assumed the form of a boar for the sake of rescuing the earth. Verse 38. This most sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. On the field of battle, it promotes the strengths of one's vital organs and organs of action. Those who listen to it at the last moment of their life find their asylum in Lord Narayana, O dear Shaunaka. Thus ends the 19th discourse entitled The Death of Hiranyaksha in Book 3 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. Discourse 20. The various species of living beings created by Brahma. Shaunaka said, having secured a foothold in the shape of the earth, O son of Suta, Romaharshana, what means did Swayambhuva Manu adopt for evolving the other creatures that were yet to see the light? Vidura was a great devotee of the Lord and a devoted friend of Sri Krishna. He abandoned his own elder brother Dhritarashtra along with the latter's sons Duryodhana and others because they had offended against Sri Krishna by turning a deaf ear to his counsel and behaving inimically towards his beloved Pandavas. Sprung from the loins of the sage Dvaipayana Vedavyasa, he was in no way inferior to him in glory. Nay, he was devoted to Sri Krishna with all his being and attached to his devotees. Verse 4. Further cleansed of all his sins by resorting to sacred places, what else did he inquire of the sage Maitreya, the foremost among the knowers of truth, on meeting him at Kushavarta or Haridwara, where he was living? In the course of their conversation, O Suta, there must have proceeded sacred stories centering around the lotus feet of Sri Hari, and hence capable of wiping out all sins like the waters of the holy Ganga that have their source in those very feet. May God bless you. Please narrate to us those very stories of the Lord whose noble deeds are the only achievements worth glorifying. What man who has his aesthetic sense developed would feel sated with drinking in the nectar like stories of Sri Hari's pastimes? Verse 7. Questioned thus by the sages staying at Naimisha, Ugrashrava, with his mind fixed on the Lord, said to them, listen. Suta continued. Vidura, a descendant of King Bharata, was delighted to hear the story of the Lord, who, having assumed by his own divine will the semblance of a boar, had enacted the sport of lifting up the earth from the bottom of the ocean and indifferently killed the demon Hiranyaksha. He then spoke to the sage as follows. Verse 9. Vidura said, knowing as you do things unperceived by us, tell me, O holy sage, what Brahma, the lord of Prajapatis, did for the purpose of creating living beings after evolving the Prajapatis or lords of created beings. How did the sage Marichi and the other Brahmanas, as well as Swayambhuva Manu, evolve the creation in obedience to Brahma's command? Did they evolve it in conjunction with their wives or remaining independent in their actions? or did they all jointly produce it? Verse 12, Maitreya replied, when the equilibrium of the three gunas constituting Prakriti or primordial matter got disturbed through the agency of Prarabdha, the destiny of the jivas, the working of which is difficult to comprehend, the Supreme Spirit presiding over Prakriti and Kala, the time spirit, as well as through mere proximity to the Lord, the Mahat Tattvas, the principle of cosmic intelligence, was evolved therefrom. From the Mahat Tattva, in which the element of Rajas predominates, as impelled by the destiny of the Jivas, was evolved the ego, the source of the five elements, which is of three kinds, according as it is predominated by sattva, rajas, or tamas. And the ego, in its turn, evolved many a group of five principles, such as the five gross elements. Footnote is there for this. The other groups of five principles, besides the five gross elements, are the five subtle elements, the five senses of perception, the five organs of action, and the two groups of five deities, severally presiding over the five senses and the five organs. Verse number 14. Severally unable now, severally unable to produce the material universe, they combined with the help of the divine energy and were now able to evolve a shining egg. For over 1,000 years, the egg lay on the waters of the causal ocean in a lifeless state. After that, the Lord entered it as its presiding deity. Verse 16, from the navel of the Lord as presiding over the egg sprang a lotus that possessed the dazzling splendor of 1,000 suns and was intended to be the abode of all living beings. Brahma himself emanated from this very lotus. Verse 17, when the Lord who sleeps on the waters forming the support of the cosmos entered his heart as the inner controller, Brahma, the creator, started creating hierarchy of the various worlds according to the plan evolved by him in the preceding kalpas. At the very outset, he evolved out of his shadow or ignorance the five varieties of avidya or nescience. That is, tamishra, andhatamishra, tamas, moha, and mahamoha. It says, for the meaning of these terms, see verse 2 of Discourse 12 above. Verse 19, Brahma threw off that body of his in the form of a shadow, for he did not like it, made up as it was of darkness or ignorance. The yakshas and rakshasas who had sprung therefrom took possession of that body, which continued in the form of night and is the source of hunger and thirst. Verse 20, overpowered by hunger and thirst, they ran to devour him from all sides. Spare him not out of compassion, thinking that he is our father. Eat him up, they all cried, oppressed as they were with hunger and thirst. 21. The god Brahma grew nervous at this unexpected turn and pleaded with them, pray eat me not, but spare me. For you have all been born as sons to me, O Yakshas and Rakshasas. Footnote, of these two species of living beings, those who said eat him up, Jakshata, were chased as Yaksha, while they who said spare him, Rakshata, came to be known as Rakshasas.
The knowledge in this, where it has come from, how they wrote the book. That is why the Brahmanas are being praised. Brahmanas are one or the other Brahmana has the knowledge. and then they can, and one who is a Saraswati's disciple, then he will be frequently giving you. This is the thing. So we have to think that they have chosen us to make the Gurukul very simple.
Verse 22.
Yeah.
Shining with glory, he created before all others the divinities that had the element of sattva or goodness predominant in them. When Brahma dropped even that effulgent form out of which he had evolved those divinities, and which now figured as daytime, the gods sportfully took possession of it. Verse 23. The glorious Brahma next evolved from his hinder part the demons. There is a footnote that says this is corroborated by the Shruti text. Na jaga na jaganada surana srijat. Okay. Uh, the glorious Brahma next evolved from his hinder part, the demons, who are excessively fond of women. Being very lustful, they came up to him for copulation. Verse 24. The worshipful Brahma first laughed at their stupidity, but finding the shameless Asuras close upon him, he grew indignant and ran out of fear in great haste. He approached Sri Hari, the bestower of boons, who dispels the agony of those running up to him for succor, and who, in order to show his grace to his devotees, reveals himself in a form answering their conception. Verse 26. Protect me, O Supreme Spirit. I created these beings as directed by you, but these sinful creatures are out to copulate with me, my Lord. You are the only one capable of ending the affliction of distressed people, as also the one inflicting agony on those who never resort to your feet for protection.
Yeah.
Verse 28. The Lord, who can distinctly see the mind of others, perceived Brahma's distress and said to him, cast off this impure body of yours. Impure because it has produced the libidinous asuras and excited their passion. Thus commanded by the Lord, he dropped it. The body thus shuffled off by Brahma took the form of the evening twilight, when the day and night meet, and which kindles passion. The asuras, who are passionate by nature, dominated as they are by the element of Rajas, took it for a damsel whose lotus feet resounded with the tinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wild with intoxication, and whose hips were covered by a fine cloth over which shone a girdle. Her breasts were projecting upwards because of their clinging to each other and were too contiguous to admit of any intervening space. She had a shapely nose and beautiful rows of teeth, nay, lovely smile played on her lips, and she cast a sportful glance at the Asuras. Adorned with dark tresses, she was hiding herself as it were, out of shyness. Perceiving that girl, O Vidura, an incarnation of Dharma, the god of virtue, the Asuras were all infatuated with love. Verse 32. Oh, what a beauty! What a rare self control! What a budding youth! In the midst of us all who are passionately longing for her, she is moving about like one absolutely free from passion. 33. Indulging in speculations of various kinds about the evening twilight that appeared to them as endowed with the form of a young woman, the Asuras of wicked mind treated her with respect and fondly asked her, who are you by birth? Whose daughter may you be, O pretty one, having thighs smooth and tapering like the stem of a plantain tree? And what can be the object of your coming over here, O proud damsel? Why do you tantalize us, luckless as we are, with the priceless commodity of your beauty? Whosoever you may be, O tender girl, we are fortunate in having been able to see you. While playing with the ball, you agitate the mind of the lookers on. When you strike the bouncing ball against the ground with your hand again and again, O praiseworthy woman, your lotus feet stay not at one place, oppressed by the weight of your full press. Your waist gets fatigued and your clear vision grows dull, as it were. Pray, braid your comely hair. Thus the asuras of clouded understanding took the evening twilight that showed itself in the form of a young woman for an alluring damsel and seized her. Verse 38. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself. Hosts of Gandharvas, celestial musicians, and Apsaras, dancing girls of heaven. After that, he gave up that shining and beloved form and other Gandharvas themselves gladly took possession of it. The glorious Brahma next evolved out of his sloth, the Bhutas, ghosts, and Pishachas, fiends. But he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair disheveled. The Bhutas and Pishachas themselves took possession of the body in the form of yawn thrown off by Brahma, the Lord of beings. It is also known as sleep, which causes the mouth, etc., of living beings to eject running saliva. And these very bhutas and pishachas attack men who are rendered impure in this way, and such attack of theirs is spoken of as insanity. Verse 42. Recognizing himself as full of vigor and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the Lord of beings, evolved out of his invisible form the hosts of sadhyas and pitras or mains. The pitras themselves took possession of that invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body of the pitras that those well versed in the ritual offer oblations to the sadhyas and the pitras in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddha, etc. Verse 44. By his faculty of remaining hidden from view, Brahma evolved a species of living beings called the Siddhas and the Vidyadharas and gave them that marvelous form of his known by the name of Antardhana, the faculty of remaining hidden from view. Verse 45. One day, Brahma, the Lord of beings, had beheld his own reflection in water, and admiring himself through that, evolved the Kim Purushas as well as Kinnaras out of that very reflection. They took possession of that shadowy form which was left by Brahma. That is why they sing his praises by recounting his exploits at daybreak every morning with their spouses. Once, verse 47, once Brahma lay with his body stretched at full length, much concerned over the fact that the work of creation had not proceeded apace, and in a sullen mood shed that body too. 48. The hair that dropped from that body, as he apparently pulled them in a fit of excitement, were transformed into snakes, dear Vidura. While even as the body crawled along with its hands and feet contracted, there sprang from it ferocious serpents and nagas with their necks dilated in the form of wood. One day, Brahma, the self born creator, felt as if the object of his life had been accomplished. At that time, he evolved out of his mind, last of all, the Manus, who promote the welfare of the world. To them, the self possessed creator gave his own human form. On seeing them, the Manus, those who had been created earlier, the gods, the Gandharvas, etc., and so on, applauded Brahma, the Lord of created beings. Verse 51. O Creator of the universe, we are glad what you have produced is well done. Since all ritual acts such as pouring oblations into the sacred fire have been placed on a sound footing in this human form, we shall all share the sacrificial oblations with it. Verse 52. Having equipped himself with austere penance, adoration, yoga, concentration of mind, and samadhi or deep meditation, accompanied by dispassion, etc., and having controlled his senses, Brahma, the first seer, evolved the rishis, his beloved sons. To each one of these, the unborn creator gave a part of his own body, which was characterized by deep meditation, concentration of mind, supernatural power, austerity, adoration, and dispassion. Thus ends the 20th discourse in Book 3 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. Koti Koti pranams to you, Param Pujya Guruji, Devis and Mahatmas. Let us read these again and come back for more. We'll go to Kritagnyata Prarthana now.
प्रार्थना करते हैं देश और धर्म के लिए, प्रार्थना करते हैं भारत की स्त्रियों के लिए और उनके विकास के लिए, प्रार्थना करते हैं हमारे अन्नदाता किसानों के लिए तथा उन सभी के लिए जिनके श्रम से हमारे पात्र में प्रसाद आता है। ये प्रसाद जो हमें 3 से 5 बार मिलता है, भूख हो न हो तो भी मिल जाता है, इससे हमारा बौद्धिक, शारीरिक और मानसिक पोषण हो। हम निरहंकारी बने, दूसरों के बारे में सोचें और हमारे में क्षमा भाव जगे। इसी के साथ प्रार्थना करते हैं भारत के तथा विश्व भर में कई ऐसे लोगों के लिए जिनको शायद 2 वक्त का प्रसाद मिले न मिले पता नहीं होता। उनकी सारी आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति हो, उनका विकास हो और उनके विकास से देश और विश्व का विकास हो। प्रार्थना करते हैं भारत के 17 से 21 वर्ष की आयु के सभी युवक और युवतियों के लिए नीति द्वारा यह अनिवार्य किया जाए कि उनको सेना में प्रशिक्षण मिले, जिससे कि वो अच्छे नागरिक बने। प्रार्थना करते हैं भारत के सेना बल के लिए सीमाएं बंद हो, घुसपैठ न हो, आतंकवाद न हो और हमारे जवानों के प्राण व्यर्थ में न जाएं। उनका आर्थिक और पारिवारिक जीवन हर्ष, उल्लास और विकास से भरपूर रहे। प्रार्थना करते हैं हमारे पुलिस बल के लिए नीति द्वारा उनके वेतन 10 गुना बढ़ाए जाए, उनकी जैविक अवस्था में सुधार लाया जाए, उनकी क्षमताओं में बढ़ोतरी लाई जाए और वो सदैव न्याय और धर्म का संस्थापन करते रहें। प्रार्थना करते हैं हमारे परम पूज्य गुरुजी द्वारा संकल्पित सारे कार्यों के लिए। ये सारे ही संकल्प जैसे निवृत्ति, गुरुकुल, गीता वितरण इत्यादि का उद्देश्य है भारत के कई करोड़ों अच्छे गरीबों को लाभ पहुंचाना। ये सारे ही संकल्प बड़े से बड़े पैमाने पर साकार हो और इसका लाभ देश के कोने कोने तक पहुंचे। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि इस देश के शासक इस देश को उसकी खोई हुई संस्कृति की ओर ले जा सके। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि इस देश के हर जिले में कम से कम 2001 एकड़ के फैलाव वाले महाजलाशय बनाए जाए, जिससे कि वहां भरपूर जल रहे। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि इस देश के हर जिले में कम से कम 200 सौर शक्ति से संचालित ट्रामें चलाई जाए। इनके माध्यम से हर एक गांव को जिला मुख्यालय से जोड़ा जाए, जिससे कि यातायात में सुविधा हो, पर्यावरण भी स्वच्छ रहे और व्यय भी कम हो। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि ईश्वर हमारे परम पूज्य गुरुजी को 120 वर्ष का स्वास्थ्य से परिपूर्ण आयुष दे और गुरुजी सदैव हमारा मार्गदर्शन करते रहें। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि ईश्वर सभी सत्संगियों को, सभी विभूतियों को और उनके परिवारजनों को स्वास्थ्य से परिपूर्ण लंबी आयुष दे और सभी गुरुजी द्वारा दिखाए गए पथ पर चलें। सारा श्रेय गुरुजी को जाता है। आज का जो भी पुण्य है उनके श्री चरणों में समर्पित करते हुए देश और धर्म के लिए प्रार्थना करते हैं। तथास्तु, तथास्तु, तथास्तु।
प्रार्थना करते हैं देश के प्रत्येक विद्यालयों एवं संस्थानों में दिन में 3 बार संपूर्ण वंदे मातरम गाया जाए, जिससे कि नागरिकों में देशभक्ति की भावना जागृत हो। तथास्तु। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। वंदे मातरम। भारत माता की जय। जय हिंद।